Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from Reality Art Pod, here to talk about Sunday's 2-hour season finale of Big Brother 27. Last time on Big Brother, Morgan became the first HOH to also win veto in the same week, saving Vince, and Vinny the Lip evicted Ava Two Hats. Before I dive in, I put a link in the description to my playlist to catch up on my recaps and rankings. If you like the content, consider liking, subscribing, and using my link to try Paramount Plus for free. But let's dive into it, starting with the special Sunday edition of
What's Julie wearing?
Ooh la la.
Exquisite!
This segment couldn't be more appropriately named because when she came on the screen, I screamed, "What is Julie wearing?" Let's break this down. Julie's wearing a crumbled, I don't know what this top is, a corset? Why does it look like a bra? At first, I was like, okay, she's wearing a dress, and then it zooms out and she's wearing pants, which was a big bummer, but then it zooms out more, and these pants have a giant, I want to say 8-inch cuff on the bottom. Why? And to add insult to injury, these pants have a train. Why in tarnation would you dress like this? Maybe Julie got a tablecloth stuck in her pants, like Ashley's toilet paper. I must move on. We pick back up where we left off. The final three are competing in part one of the final HOH. They're flying on drones, looking for the Mastermind's new lair. The player who hangs on the longest will go straight to part three. Morgan is seeking redemption for disappointing performance in the wall comp. Vince is getting sick when this thing is spinning, and it actually does look like a carnival ride from hell. Morgan has no trouble with this, and Ashley falls first, followed by Vince, giving Morgan the win in part one. Vince is already whining like a baby about losing this round. We get to the jury roundtable, hosted by Trader's loser, Cody Calafiore. They reveal Ava was evicted by Morgan's comp wins and Vince's vote. The jury is looking for a well-rounded player who takes accountability. They respect Morgan for winning competitions and having good social game, but they knock her for often being paranoid. Rachel feels like Morgan played Vince's game. I was surprised they all feel Vince played a good game, but that he lied and made final twos unnecessarily. Kelly says he was either lying or crying. Will calls Vince messy, but Rachel motivates the jury not to be bitter. Rachel is Vince's biggest defender here. Ava praises Ashley for being loyal. Will and Rachel reveal that Ashley was a lawyer, so they already know, taking away from the big reveal for Ashley. They feel Ashley didn't make big moves she can claim. Back in the game for round two, players are met with special guest Frankie Grande. Frankie says the last time he was there, a legend left the game. Then the mastermind interrupts, saying blah blah blah. They need to swing on their zip line to knock down 3 billboards, then solve puzzles of eliminated players. Once they do that, they can open an envelope with instructions to unmask the mastermind and save BB City. The first player to solve the code will move on to part 3 of the HOH competition. They get started and they're both doing well on the zip line, kicking off their blocks. Vince finishes his first and gets to a lead. He furthers this lead on the face puzzles, which seems so easy. The envelope says that the passcode is the order that they left the game, but Vince thinks that it's the days they're evicted and continues to buzz in with the wrong answers. Vince is at this point screaming at his puzzle as Ashley gets her clue and starts working on hers. At first, Ashley thinks it's the days too, so she smartly rereads the clue and realizes what she's doing wrong, keeping her cool and fixing her answers, getting the answer right, but is her answer the order? Where Ashley's answers were the players' placings in the game, not the order, but she wins part two. Vince is agitated and crashes out, having a fit about this. How are we supposed to witness this petulance and want him to succeed? They unmask the mastermind, who ends up being Dr. Will, and he's arrested, shouting that he was framed. After the competition, Vince continues his spiral. Morgan consoles him, but she's feeling like it's a good move to cut Vince. Meanwhile, Ashley celebrates, telling us she wants to cut Morgan, which brings us to part 3 of the HOH, called Perjury Duty. They'll get videos of the jurors making statements about the game, and guess which of their answers is a lie. The player with the most correct answers will win the final HOH. They get started. Morgan totally chokes and gets 3 questions wrong in a row, giving Ashley a big lead that makes them end the game early, which makes Ashley the final HOH of the season in a very dominant performance here. So Ashley gets to decide who to take to final 2 between Vince and Morgan. Ashley says she can't beat Morgan, and for that reason, she tearily evicts her. Morgan gives Vince one last big huggaroony, and Morgan goes to meet Julie. In her interview, Morgan is understanding of Ashley's decision. She says she would have taken Ashley to final 2, and when asked about her relationship with Vince, she says they're best friends, and she's gonna be an impartial juror. So we lose Morgan here, who was my winner pick preseason. I was so excited when she said she was a gamer. It really worked on me. The second the feeds turn on, she's gaming hard, campaigning against Zay, so I was already worried early on. Sure, she wasn't telling them that she was a gamer, but she was also gaming so hard. When she was in the Triple Threat Alliance with Mickey and Jimmy, she was in a great spot in the game, but her lowest point was her part in the Mickey HOH in targeting Jimmy. I feel they were both being misguided and mean-spirited, and she's targeted soon after. But then she joins the judges and almost instantly becomes a fan favorite again, and starts winning competitions, which served her well. The alliance with Vince was a good idea, but the flirting between them was a lowlight of her time there. And there was the stuff with Zach and saving his toothbrush, which was weird. So while I think she's a great strategist and competitor, there are some character issues that I think she'll be able to reflect on and work on before we see her again. And I do think we'll see her again. I'd love to see her play again. I think she'd be great on the challenge or even the traders. She would have won if she hadn't lost. The jury come out all looking fabulous. Rachel surprisingly not in red, but looking Viking Royal. Rachel and Keanu are both hoping Vince is evicted, and Will and Rachel agree that anyone but Ashley would be nice to see coming in. They're gooped that Morgan shows up. Rachel has a look of pride in her face, and Rachel screams finding out that Ashley won the final HOH and evicted Morgan. So the jury questions the final two, a job interview, so to speak. Ashley's in her finest dress and Vince in his pajamas. Keanu accuses Vince of being emotionally manipulative. Vince defends himself, saying he was playing with self-preservation and apologizes. Rachel asks Ashley for her strategic moves. Ashley calls herself adaptable, referencing attaching herself to Morgan and Vince after Zach left. She takes credit for the formation of the Judges Alliance. Ashley's passionate and clear. She's filibustering. Julie cuts her off, but the jury gives her a round of applause for this answer. You know your answers are good when the jury is applauding. Kelly tells Vince he was lying and crying, asking if he was sincere. He says he was, but he's tripping all over his words, asking Kelly to repeat the question, failing his job interview. Will asks Ashley what her personal contributions were to the game. Ashley says once she hit Final 7, she knew she would be in the Final 2 because she was aligned with everyone in the house. Lauren asks Vince for 3 moves that he made that Morgan can't take credit for. He just starts rambling and rattling off things that he did, many of which also benefited Morgan. I zoned out during this answer. Ava asks Ashley why she should win over Vince. Ashley says she was loyal to her allies, saying she turned her enemies into allies, but he turned his allies into enemies. The stinger. Morgan asks Vince what got him to the end. He says he caused damage with his HOHs, but did damage control, and that even Kelly wanted to take him to Final 2. Kelly bursts out laughing at this. They make final speeches. Ashley says she was targeted since day 1 due to her shower, but she fought for herself to be safe. She says she's just like Elle Woods, and that she's really an attorney. Vince starts off saying he really is unemployed, that he applied for 10 years, won 4 HOHs, listing the types of competitions he won, saying he had to nominate 9 of the 17 cast members, and he put his blood, sweat, and tears into the game. Blood. The jurors cast their votes. Some of them are obvious, like Will saying his vote is for his little girl, which Julie scolds him for, and Morgan's, because we can see in her bag. Julie then welcomes the pre-jurors to the stage. They talk about Vince's 8 Final 2s. Vince admits Morgan was his real number 1. Mickey and Jimmy feel like Morgan manipulated Mickey into targeting Jimmy, but they feel Morgan played a good game. Riley and Catherine are still together, and Julie is standing them. They give Riley the floor to talk about how much he loves Catherine. Nothing he said was really groundbreaking, which made this a weird addition to the show. They could have asked Catherine about her nose ring. They reveal Amy was the accomplice, which feels like it was 10 years ago. But who cares about this? We have important business to attend to. The Mastermind is still in his lair, having just framed Dr. Will, and the Mastermind reveals themselves as Mr. Spectacular Jesse, with his villain origin story being the coup d'etat, ruining his game, and Frankie Grande, who was the victim of the rewind twist, and Eric Stein, who was the victim of America's Player. So 3 masterminds, all of them victims of production's bullshit, which is exactly what I was talking about in my Big Brother is a Mess video. This made me mad. Firstly, the way none of us care who the mastermind was, but then the mastermind being the victims of production interference, coming together to assist in more production interference, make it make sense. Julie reveals the final votes. Morgan voted for Vince to win, and we see votes coming in for Ashley, Ava, Keanu, Lauren, Kelly, all for Ashley. Seeing Lauren not vote for Vince fixed something inside me. And by a vote of 6-1, Ashley is the winner of Big Brother 27, celebrated with a satisfying group hug with Ashley, Amy, and Rachel, which fixed another part of me. Julie has a karaoke microphone. She's about to do Wonderwall. Julie announces that Taylor won the unlocked pool, and Keanu, Rachel, and Will are the top 3 in America's Favorite, and Keanu is the winner of America's Favorite House Guest. I'm disappointed it's not Rachel, but whatever, let's wrap this up talking about our finalists, starting with runner-up Vince, who at times was doing so well in the game. He had allies and 1 HOHs. I had him in first place in my rankings week 6, when he convinced indecisive Lauren to save him with the veto, which was a feat that he never really owned, which in my opinion was his best game move. His HOHs weren't impressive. Amy had him pegged when she called him a weenie. He would just get pushed over by whoever wanted to boss him around, which he says is just like his real life. When he was pressured by Morgan to nominate Lauren and he went through with it, I said at the time that was the moment he lost Big Brother. While I do find his weeniness very insufferable, part of me feels like it's kind of sad how hard on himself he is, and I know he's gonna have a hard time outside of the house, seeing some of the fan opinions and finding out that he's single, so I don't want to rag on him any more than I need to. There was a lot of potential there, but I really don't want to see him again on my screen. Not in a house, not in a castle, not in a box, not with a fox, not on a boat, not with a goat. I do not want green beanie and weenie. And our winner Ashley, who I originally ranked 2nd preseason. Remember when that commercial came out? We all thought Marion was Ashley. There was such excitement for Ashley coming into the premiere, and to find out she was on the block week 1 was such a disappointment. And for Showergate, which was so dumb. Vince was really trying to gaslight her about that too. She finds herself on the bottom for a few weeks in a trio with Amy and Rachel, and slowly over time crawls and scratches her way up the pecking order. But it wasn't just the shower. She would bother other players with things like not refilling the Brita, which had her name being consistently brought up and then talked down by other players. But there's a moment mid-game where she talks to the camera and tells us that she's playing dumb and gonna turn it around in the jury phase, and she impressively follows through and does exactly what she told us she was going to, throwing herself in any game chat that she can get into, telling harsh truths with confidence, She talked herself out of being evicted over Will, which was a huge task. She even convinced Morgan to take her to the final two, and after seeing this finale, I think Ashley beats Morgan. I find it cathartic that someone who was in it with Rachel from the beginning, who had a rocky pre-jury like Rachel in BB12, but wins the final HOH and the game like Rachel in BB13, would go on to bring it home, and that a season that was so dominated by powerful women would in the end be won by a woman. We got a good winner, and on this show, that puts a gold star next to the season when I look back at it. And Ashley and Rachel together on an all-winner season would be bliss. Well, that wraps up my recap of the season. This was my third season recapping, but the first time that I did every single episode, one at a time. We've come a long way. Thank you to everyone new and old who watched along with me. I'll be back next year for BB28, and you could find me recapping the challenge and Survivor this week. I also have 2 more BB27 videos, my postseason player rankings, and ranking Julie's looks. You can also keep up with me on social media, which I link in the description, but I'm awful at mentioning. If you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. Until next time, will you say it with me, everyone? What does Julie say? One another. See you next summer.